Warning: excessive strong language, hallucinations, intense dark tales lie ahead. Proceed with caution. Thank you. I recently picked up a book called Insomnia. I guess why is pretty much self explanatory. Which reminded me that I have a very pretty book in hardcover that I bought ages ago. Read two stories that scared the shit out of me and has remained untouched since. Yes, I said scared. Curious. Then think of these: The Shining, Carrie, Pet Cemetery, Misery, Dreamcatcher, Doctor Sleep. I think a few of you might have guessed what I'm talking about till now. If you're thinking movies, these were novels first, and the man responsible for our collective fears, sleepless nights, and scary dreams, Mr. Stephen King. But this is me, so of course we aren't going to be talking about his 71 books over 40 years and still counting. Yes, his latest novel, Billy Summers, is due to be released on 3rd of August 2021. That is in 15 days. And another is set for Feb of next year. This man is a legend. Fun fact: The Shawshank Redemption, this brilliant gem of a movie, is also written by him. Stephen King wrote Shawshank Redemption. It was also his directorial debut, by the way. And guess what? Stephen King also writes poetry. Yes, sir, he does. He wrote his first poem when he was 12 and fell in love for the first time. He doesn't publish them, hardly even keeps them together. Most of his poems have been long lost drafts that he lost and were discovered later, mostly by his friends. That's because he does not consider himself a poet by a long shot. His thoughts, whether it is in paragraphs or verses, people like a good story. And that's exactly what his poems are like: less poems and more of a campfire urban legend. Macabre, dark, intended to mess with your head and yet rendering you incapable of tearing yourself away from it. But I do hope you stick with me till the end. It's not something one easily comes across. Reminder: listen, like, follow, share, subscribe, say hello on Insta at What Saves Me From Drowning, or maybe send me a voice message. The link is in the show notes. P.S. That pretty book I mentioned at the start, it's called The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. Some name, huh? Check it out. P.P.S. Halfway through recording this, I realized this also is the episode number 13. Shall we consider this as a sign? Well, 13 and scary always go hand in hand, and I love the number. So, cheers. Let's begin with a toast to the misfits, the freaks, the weirdos that do not belong, and to death, who will always come, and to the naivety of youth when we dare to think of ourselves as invincible. Tommy. Tommy died in 1969. He was a hippie with leukemia. Bummer, man. After the funeral came the reception at Newman Center. That's what his folks called it, the reception. My friend Phil said, "Isn't that what you have after a fucking wedding?" The freaks all went to the reception. Terrell wore his cape. There were sandwiches to eat and grape drink in Dixie cups. My friend Phil said, "What is this grape shit?" I said it was Zarex. I recognized it, I said, from MYF. What's that shit? Asked Phil. Methodist Youth Fellowship, I said. I went for 10 years and once did a flannel board of Noah and the Ark. Fuck your ark, said Phil. And fuck the animals who rode on it. Phil, a young man with strong opinions. After the reception, Tommy's parents went home. I imagine they cried and cried. The freaks went to 110 North Main. We cranked up the stereo. I found some Grateful Dead records. I hated the Dead. Of Jerry Garcia, I used to say, I'll be grateful when he's dead. Turns out I wasn't. Oh well, Tommy liked them. Also, dear God, Kenny Rogers. We smoked dope in zigzag papers. We smoked Winston's and Pall Malls. We drank beer and ate scrambled eggs. We rapped about Tommy. It was pretty nice. And when the Wildstein Club showed up, all 8 of them, we let them in because Tommy was gay and sometimes wore Daryl's gay. We all agreed his folks had done him righteous. Tommy wrote down what he wanted and they gave him most of it. He was dressed in his best as he lay in his new narrow apartment. He wore his bell bottom blue jeans and his favorite tie dye shirt. Melissa Big Girl Freak made that shirt. I don't know what happened to her. She was there one day, then gone down that lost highway. I associate her with melting snow. Main Street in Orno would gleam so wet and bright it hurt your eyes. That was the winter the Lemon Pipers sang Green Tambourine. His hair was shampooed. It went to his shoulders. Man, it was clean. I bet the mortician washed it. He was wearing his headband with the peace sign stitched in white silk. He looked like a dude, said Phil. He was getting drunk. Phil was always getting drunk. Jerry Garcia was singing Trucking. It's a pretty stupid song. Fucking Tommy, said Phil. Drink to the motherfucker. We drank to the motherfucker. He wasn't wearing his special button, said Indian's Contras. Indian was in the Wildstein Club. Back then, he knew every dance. These days, he sells insurance in Brewer. He told his mother he wanted to be buried wearing his button. That is so bogus. I said his mom just moved it under his vest. I looked. It was a leather vest with silver buttons. Tommy bought it at the free fair. I was with him that day. There was a rainbow, and from a loudspeaker, Canned Heat sang, Let's Work Together. I am here and I am queer, said the button his mother moved beneath his vest. She should have left it alone, said Indian's Contras. Tommy was proud. He was a very proud queer. Indian's Contras was crying. Now he sells whole life policies and has 3 daughters. Turned out not to be so gay after all, but selling insurance is very queer in my opinion. She was his mother, I said, and kissed his crepes when he was young. What does that have to do with it? Asked Indian's Contras. Fucking Tommy, said Phil, and raised his beer high. Let's toast the motherfucker. We toasted the motherfucker. That was 40 years ago. Tonight I wonder how many hippies died in those few sunshine years. Must have been quite a few. It's just statistics, man. And I'm not just talking about the war. You had your car accidents, your drug overdoses, plus booze, bar fights, the occasional suicide, and let's not leave out leukemia. All the usual suspects is all I'm saying. How many were buried in their hippie duds? This question occurs to me in the whispers of the night. It must have been quite a few, although it was fleeting, the time of the freaks. Their free fare is now underground, where they still wear their bell bottoms and headbands, and there is mold on the full sleeves of their psychedelic shirts. The hair in those narrow rooms is brittle but still long. The man's barber has not touched it in 40 years. No gray has frosted it. What about the ones who went down clasping signs that said, "Hell no, we won't go"? What about the car accident boy, buried with a McCarthy sticker on the lid of his coffin? What about the girl with the stars on her forehead? They have fallen now, I imagine, from her parchment skin. These are the soldiers of love who never sold insurance. These are the fashion dudes who never went out of fashion. Sometimes at night, I think of hippies asleep in the earth. Here's to Tommy. Drink to the motherfucker. Sometimes dreams spill into reality and life itself becomes a nightmare. Gather around and listen of a tale that may be a myth, a journey that was, or was it? The places that you wish to go back to but can never reach, and the hell that follows after. The Bone Church. If you want to hear, buy me another drink. This is slop, but never mind, what isn't. There were 32 of us went into that green cell. 30 days in the green and only 3 who rose above it. 3 rose above the green, 3 made it to the top. Manning and Rabia and me. And what does that book say, the famous one? Only I am left to tell you. I'll die of the drink in bed as many obsessed whoresomes do. And I'm on Manning. Balls. It was his money put us there, his will that drove us on. Death by death. But did he die in bed? Not that one. I saw to it. Now he worships in that bone church forever. Life is grand. What slop is this? Still, buy me another. Do. Buy me 2. I'll talk for whiskey if you want me to shut up, switch me to champagne. Talk is cheap, silence is dear, my dear. What was I saying? 29 dead on the march and one a woman. Fine tits she had, and an ass like an English saddle. We found her face down one morning, as dead as the fire she lay in. An ash baby smoked at the cheeks and throat, never burnt. That fire must have been cold when she went in. She talked the whole voyage and died without a sound. What's better than being a human? Do you say so? No? Then balls to you. And your mother too. If she had a pair, she'd have been a fucking king. Anthropologist. So she said, didn't look like no anthropologist when we pulled her out of the ashes, with char on her cheeks and whites of her hair dusted grey with soot. Not a mark on her otherwise. Torrance said it might have been a stroke, and he was as close to a doctor as we had that phony bastard. For the love of God, bring whiskey, for life's a trudge without it. The green didn't down day by day. Carson died of a stick in his boot. His foot swelled up, and when we cut away the boot leather, his toesies were as black as the squid's ink that drove Manning's heart. Reston and Paul G, they were stung by spiders, big as your fists. Ackman bit by a snake what dropped out of a tree where it hung like a lady's purse roll draped on a branch. Bit its poison into Ackerman's nose. How strong a throw, you ask? Try this. He ripped his own snout clean off. Yes, tore it away like a rotten peach off a branch and died spitting his own dying face. God damn life, I say. If you can't laugh, you might as well laugh anyway. That's my goddamn attitude, and I stick by it. This ain't a sad world unless you are sane. Now, where was I? Javier fell off a plank bridge, and when we hauled him out, he couldn't breathe. So Torrance tried to kiss him back to life and sucked from his throat a leech as big as a hothouse tomato. It popped free like a cork from a bottle and split between it, sprayed both with the claret we live on. For we all are alcoholics that way, if you see my figure. And when the Spaniard died raving, Manning said the leeches gone to his brain. As for me, I hold no opinion on that. All I know is that Harvey's eyes couldn't stay shut but went on bulging in and out even after he was in our hole. Something hungry there, alright? Yes, there was. And all the while, the macaws screamed at the monkeys, and the monkeys screamed at the macaws, and both screamed for the blue sky they couldn't see, for it was buried in the goddamn green. Is this whiskey or diarrhea in a glass? There was one of those suckers in the Frenchie's pants. Did I tell you? You know what that one ate, don't you? It was Dorrance himself went next. We were climbing by then, but still in the green. He fell in a gorge and we could hear the snap. Broke his neck, 26 years of age, engaged to be married, case closed. Ugh, ain't life grand? Life's a sucker in the throat, life's the gorge we fall in, it's a soup and we all end up vegetables. Ain't I philosophical? Never mind, it's too late to count the dead and I'm too drunk. In the end, we got there, just say that. Climbed the high path out of all that sizzling green after we buried Rostoy Timmins, the Texan, I forget his name, and Dorrance and a couple of other ones. In the end, most went down of some fever that boiled their skin and turned it green. At the end, it was only Manning, Rabio, and me. We caught the fever too, but killed it before it killed us. Only I ain't never really got better. Now whiskey is my quinine, what I take for the shake, so buy me another before I forget my manners and cut your fucking throat. I might even drink what comes out, so be wise, son. And trot it over, goddamn you. There was a road we came to, even Manning agreed it was, and wide enough for elephants if the ivory hunters hadn't picked clean the jungles and the plains beyond them back when gas was still a nickel. It bore up that road, and we bore up with it on tilted slabs of stone a million years, jounced free of Mother Earth, leaping one to another like frogs in the sun. Ravio still burning with the fever, and me, oh, I was so light. Like milkweed gauze on a breeze. I saw it all. My mind was as clear then as clean water, for I was as young then as horrid now. Yes, I see how you look at me, but you needn't frown so, for it's your own future you see on this side of the table. We climbed above the birds, and there was the end, a strong tongue poked straight into the sky. Manning broke into a run, and we ran after Fabio, trotting a right smart, sick as he was. But he wasn't sick long. We looked down and saw what we saw. Manning flushed red at the sight, and why not? For breathes a fever too. He grabbed me by the rag that was once my shirt and asked were it just a dream. When I said I saw what he saw, he turned to Ravio. But before Ravio could say aye or nay, we heard thunder coming up from the green roof we'd left behind like a storm turned upside down. Or say, like all of Earth had caught the fever that stalked us and was sick in its bowels. I asked Manning what he heard, and Manning said nothing. He was hypnotized by the cleft looking down 1,000 feet of ancient air into the church below. A million years worth of bone and tusk, a whited sculpture of eternity, a thrashed bit of bronze, such as you'd see if hell burnt dry to the slag of its cauldron. You expected to see bodies impaled on the ancient thorns of that sunny tomb. There were none, but the thunder was coming rolling up from the ground instead of down from the sky. The stones shook beneath our heels as they burst free of the green that took so many of us. Rostoy with his mouth harp, Dorrance who sang along, the anthropologist with the ass like an English saddle, 26 others. They arrived, those gaunt ghosts, and shook the green roof from their feet and came in a shuddering wave. Elephants, stampeding from the green cradle of time. Towering among them, believe what you want, were mammoths from the dead age when man was not, their tusks in corkscrew and their eyes as red as the whips of sorrow. Wrapped around their wrinkled legs were jungle vines. One came, yes, with a flower stuck in a fold of his chest, hide like a bottonaire. Ravio screamed and put his hand over his eyes. Manning said, I don't see that. He sounded like a man explaining to a fucking traffic cop. I pulled him aside and we three stumbled into a stony cunt near the edge. From there, we watched them roll. A tide in the face of reality that made you wish for blindness and glad for sight. They went past us, never slowing, the ones behind driving the ones before, and over they went, trumpeting their way to suicide, crashing into the bones of their oblivion a dusty mile below. Hours it went on, that endless convention of tumbling death. Trumpets all the way down, a brass orchestra diminishing. The dust and the smell of their shit near choked us, and in the end, Ravio ran mad. Stood up, whether to pelt away or to join them, I don't never knew which, but join them he did. Head first and down with his boot heels in the sky and all the nailheads winking. One arm waved, the other, one of those giant flat feet, tore it off his body and the arm followed after, fingers waving, bye bye, bye bye, and so long, boys. Ha! I leaned out to see him go, and it was a sight to remember. How he sprayed in pinwheels that hung in the air after he was gone, then turned pink and floated away on a breeze that smelled of rotten carnations. But hear this, you idiot. The only new bones were his. Do you mark what I say? Then listen again, damn you. His, but no others. Nothing down there after the last of the giants had passed us, but for the bone church, which was as it was, with one blot of red, and that was Ravio. For that was a stampede of ghosts or memories, and who's to say they are not the same? Manning got up trembling, said our fortunes were made, as if he didn't already have one. His bones are with the others now. And where's my drink? And what about what you just saw? I asked. Would you bring others to see such a holy place? Why, next thing you know, the Pope himself will be pissing his holy water over the side. But Manning only shook his head and grinned and held up hands without a speck of dust on them. Although not a minute passed, we'd been choking on it by the bale and coated with it from top to toe. He said it was hallucination we'd seen, brought on by fever and stink water. Said again that our fortunes were made and laughed. The bastard, that laugh was his undoing. I saw that he was mad, or I was, and one of us would have to die. You know which one it was, since here I sit before you, drunk with hair that once were black hanging in my eyes. He said, Don't you see, you fool? And said no more, for the rest was just a scream. Balls to him, and balls to your grinning face. I don't remember how I got back. It's a dream of green with brown faces to it, then a dream of blue with white faces in it. And now I wake at night in this city where not one man in 10 dreams of what lies beyond his life. For the eyes they used to dream with are shut, as Manning's were until the end, when not all the bank accounts in hell or Switzerland, they may be the same, could save him. I wake with my liver bellowing, and in the dark, I hear the lumbering thunders of those great ghosts rising out of the green roof like a storm, set loose to harrow the earth. And I smell the dust and the shit, and when the hordes break free into the sky of their undoing, I see the ancient fans of their ears and the hooks of their I see the ancient fans of their ears and the hooks of their tusks. I see their eyes and their eyes and their eyes. There's more to life than this. There are maps inside your maps. It's still there, the Bone Church. And I'd like to go back and find it again so I could throw myself over and be done this wretched comedy. Now turn away your sheep's face before I turn it away for you. Reality is a dirty place with no religion in it. So buy me a drink, goddamn you. We'll toast elephants that never were.